What will the future bring from Nintendo? More hits like Super Mario Brothers. Arcade hits like Kung Fu. Nintendo has the most video game hits. Hogan's Alley, Duck Hunt, and more like baseball and Excite-Bike. And you can play them only on the Nintendo Entertainment System. Now you're playing with power.
Hi gamers, how's it going and welcome back to the channel. Quite recently there's been quite a few top 10s doing the rounds. These have been the PlayStation top 10, the Master System top 10, the Mega Drive top 10. I've even seen PS2 and PS4 top 10s. Somewhere between the Master System and the Mega Drive top 10 we've missed out some very crucial systems. So hold on to your seatbelts because here is my top 10 Nintendo Entertainment System games. So, starting off with number 10, we've got Rescue the Embassy Mission. This is a kind of like an espionage type of game in which you control about 4 squad members and you have to do a series of challenges, like a series of phases to position yourself around this embassy which has been overtaken by terrorists. And it's really unique, to be perfectly honest. It starts off as like a side-scrolling platformer. And then you move into like a sniper mode where you have to kind of take out, you become a sniper, you take out certain people within windows, you smash a few windows, and then you have to abseil down the building. At which point when you enter the building it then becomes a first person shooter type game. And now bearing in mind this is an 8-bit system and this is really unique for me. I've not experienced anything like this in its time. So for me this was a fantastic game. It's really short though. I think there's only like 3 missions and I think that's just on difficulty level as well. But yeah, I mean it's a very short game, but it's a game that I did play again and again because I was just overwhelmed by its technical capabilities. Like it literally was like playing like the first person bit, going through the corridors and stuff was new to me, and it's a really fantastic little game. So my number 10 is Rescue the Embassy Mission. So before I move on to my number 9, I want to bear in mind that this is just my top 10 of games that I own. Obviously there are a lot of fantastic Nintendo games out there, but for me these are the games that had the most impact on myself during my childhood and whilst playing the Nintendo. So my number 9 is Paperboy. Now we recently did, well not long ago, maybe about a month or 2 ago now, there was a Master System challenge of this. Every time I say Master System challenge, it never comes out. I never enunciate the Master System. I always say Master System. But the Master System challenge we did for this, and it showed off a different port for this game. Now I've played loads of different ports for this. I've played the Mega Drive version, the NES version, the Master System version, the arcade version. But for me, the one that gave me the best memories was this version because it was one of the first games that I owned on the NES, and everything from just the graphics, and the music and the sound effects for when breaking the like the glass of the houses, and even like the little posts outside someone's house, just really kind of stuck in my head, and kind of like this image burned into my brain, and I can just hear it in my head all the time. And it was such a challenging little game. The music, of course, was I think different to the Master System version and the Mega Drive version, and even the arcade version. But again, the music stood out on its own. It made this version really unique. And I spent so many hours playing this with my sister, who we just continuously tried to get through the entire week and obviously not miss those houses. It's just such a fantastic game and so addictive, and it's a game that I constantly keep going back to from time to time, and this is my number 9. So number 8 for me is a sports game, but again, I'm a sports person, to be fair, and if you're a sports person, these kind of games have an impact on you. And being a huge fan of football, this one really stood out for me, and it was a tough choice between another football game as well. But for me, my number 8 is Konami Hyper Soccer. Now, the other Nintendo game that I was kind of debating with was Nintendo World Cup, and that was more of a cartoony style, fun non-realistic arcadey football game in which, you know, you can tackle people and they stay down. But this one for me was more realistic, and I think that's what I really enjoyed about it, you know, was the fact that it just felt more like a football game. And believe it or not, you know, as I say, it was made by Konami, so they obviously went on to make the International Superstar Soccer Series and eventually the Pro Evolution Soccer Series before it died into eFootball. But this was a great little game. I mean, you had the choice of tournament mode and penalty shootouts. And I used to love going back to penalty shootouts as well. You had just 8 different directions in which you can choose to shoot and to save a penalty if you were the keeper. And again, like as a football game, I've not really experienced penalty shootouts because I've not played many on the 8-bit systems apart from Nintendo World Cup and maybe Kickoff as well. And I don't remember Kickoff penalty shootouts if it had them, but the penalty shootouts was fantastic. And it's not just that, but when you score a goal on this game, it plays a fantastic little animation depending on what type of goal you scored. If you score a regular shot, then it plays a shot animation. If you do an overhead kick, it plays an overhead kick animation. And if you do a diving header, it does a diving header animation. And for me, that was really, really cool seeing that. And it just made it feel, I don't know, just a bit more, you know, impactful for me. And it's just something that really stood out. And again, this is another game that I just love going back to. So this is my number 8. So remembering what numbers I'm on, this is my number 7. And again, it's a game that I first played when I rented it out. So when I say rented it out, I didn't mean from like Blockbuster Video. What we used to get, we used to have a van that comes round our street, and he used to have loads of VHS cassettes, and he used to have Nintendo games as well, and he'd just have the boxes there. And, you know, do you know what? It's just like, it had this distinct smell, this van. It sounds really weird me saying this, but it had like a smell of like cardboard, but it smelt like Nintendo. I don't know if you could describe Nintendo as a smell, it was the smell of this van, because I'd go in there, you know, you'd drive around, he'd open up his back doors, and then you'd have a look, you go in the van, and, you know, he'd sell popcorn, VHS videos, and he had Nintendo games. And, you know, one of the games that I rented off of him was Spire versus Spire, so you'd get it for about 3 or 4 days, kind of like Blockbuster Video, but there was something about this game that just stood out to me, and I think it was the colourful characters. You know, these 2 little weasel-looking things. And when I first played it, I didn't really know what I was doing. Me and my sister were playing it, and eventually we figured out that you had to set traps for each other and, you know, find the passport and 3 other items before you can win the game and take off. And again, this is another one of those games that's like very, very short. There's only really one game mode that you can do, and that's either versus the computer or a second player, and it's exactly the same thing, setting traps and trying to get the items first so you can fly off with them. Obviously you can have bigger arenas, which makes the game last a bit longer, but it's very much the same thing. But again, for me, it's just one of those games that I just loved everything about it. You know, setting the traps, and the music as well, as repetitive as it is, was just such great little music. And, you know, the little animation when you finally do get all the bits, and, you know, he does this little laughy face where he goes like and then he runs off, and then the plane takes off. It's fantastic, it really is. So super happy. I absolutely love this game, and it's well worthy of a number 7 slot. So number 6, I mean, the reason why Spy vs Spy is not number 6 is because it's not any higher even, because there's just so many great games on the NES. And, you know, hopefully watching this video, for those who don't own an NES, Andy, I'm looking at you, will kind of open up your eyes to see what kind of games are available. I know that a lot of these games so far that I've mentioned have been on multiple systems, but this one is not, and it's called Isolated Warrior. Just whack the mic. And this is an isometric kind of run and gun kind of game. And again, the graphics are fantastic on this, you know, and don't get me wrong, the Master System is, you know, a graphically more impressive machine without a doubt, but this really pulled off something quite, you know, cool as well, you know, for what the NES was capable of. And the music again is just superb, and the NES has such a fantastic chip sound that I just can't think I personally can't. I don't think it can be matched on an 8-bit system. I mean, the Master System has got its own unique sound, but the NES had a better. For me, the music sounds better on an NES, and this is just one example, and there's so many other examples, but this is a good example because the music in this game is amazing. But as I say, it's an isometric run and gun, and, you know, it's not just, there's multiple different stages, so the first stage might be on foot, but the second stage might be on a bike, and then you're kind of like going over ramps and everything like that, and it's such a good little game. And obviously as you go along you pick up power-ups and you can shoot projectiles, you know, left and right. And I first played this, my next door neighbour had this and he lent it to me, and that's where I first played this game and just absolutely loved it from there. So yeah, number 6 for me is Isolated Warrior, and if you haven't played it, I highly recommend that you give this one a go. So my number 5 is a review that I did about 6 years ago now. I recently posted the Legacy review up on YouTube, which some of you have actually seen, and that's Blue Shadow, also known as Shadow of the Ninja in the US, and it's on the Nintendo. If you've got a Switch, it's on Nintendo Online as Shadow of the Ninja, and it's a really good little ninja game. It kind of reminds me of Ninja Gaiden. In fact, when I kind of saw Ninja Gaiden for the first time, I thought it was from the same makers of this, because there was quite a lot of similarities in the games. But no, this is a great little co-op game. You play as 2 different ninjas. I mean, you can choose which ninja you want to be. Player 1 can be one, and obviously player 2 can be the other one. And you can go through the stages together. But as you go along, you start off with a katana sword, or you can get ninja stars, or you can get like a grappling hook type thing that you can use as well. And you can even do a massive power up, which kind of like destroys all of the enemies on screen. But you sacrifice half your health. But I played this one quite late in the NES actually. I think I'd already sold my NES and got it back again before I played this one. And I got it from, I think when I used to work in cash converters, I got this for like 50 pence. And yeah, it's just, again, the music in the game is superb, and it really is. And you know, the level design is great, and the graphics are really good, and really small little details in the game that really just make it fantastic. And it's a tough challenge, but it starts off nice. Like, the difficulty curve is nice and steady. It starts off as easy, warms you in, you get a nice little boss fight, and then you have some different platforming elements. And again, it's just a superb little game that, you know, is well worthy of a play, and very much worthy of a number 5 slot. So now we're getting into the heavy hitters, and my number 4 is just another game with just a superb music in it, and an excellent level design. And again, it's another little co-op game, and it's Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, and it's by Capcom. And now Capcom made so many superb NES games, and this was just one of them. And I do have another Capcom game in my list, and it's very obvious, but we'll wait before I reveal what it is. But yeah, again, you know, I played this one. I think again my neighbours had this, and we played it round theirs, and then, you know, I had to have the game. And it's not a very long game, but it's a challenging game for sure. But it's just such a nice little game to play. It's quite nice and relaxing. It's got great music. It's got really good little elements in it, in which there's some levels in which you have to be quite clever to progress. You know, whether that's turning on taps, turning off taps, turning on and off switches, and some excellent boss fights. And you know, the very last boss is superb, because you know, it's just big sprites as well in the game. And yeah, I mean, again, for those who didn't own a NES, I do feel sorry for you for missing out on games like this. But it's never too late, and you know, grab yourself an NES or grab yourself an emulator, do yourself a favour and play this game, because it's not available on Nintendo Switch Online, unfortunately. But I believe it's actually on a Capcom compilation game, which I think is on the PlayStation and Xbox and such. So yeah, definitely play this game. Well worthy of a number 5, 4, 3, 2, number 4 for me even. So I keep forgetting where I'm at. Well worthy number 4. It could have easily have been higher. Number 3 for me. Again, I'm beginning to think the last 3 games are going to be very, very obvious. And now anyone who owned a NES and was a fan of superheroes would most likely had bought this game, and that is Batman. It's just, again, you know, what can I say that people don't already know about this game? It's a tough game. It's a really tough game, but again, it has an amazing soundtrack, and you know, that's something that I seem to repeat. I repeat a lot in this top 10 is the music is amazing, and that just shows off just like how good the NES was, you know, and the developers were at you know, designing and you know, orchestrating their music for these games. But it's not just that, but the level design was really good, and you know, the features of controlling Batman were amazing as well. You know, you could kind of jump off walls, and sorry, you could jump, you could do like wall jumps. Sorry, and again the little animations, like even like when you're running and Batman's cape moving in the wind, it's just so cool. And then again you get upgrades. You got like projectiles and batarangs and such that you can use, and guns for some reason. Batman never had a gun, but he's got a gun in this. But again, the level design's great. I mean, I've never really got further than about the 3rd or 4th level on this. I certainly never got to the end, but it's very challenging. But it's a really, really good game. And again, as I say, anyone that has a NES and was a superhero fan would probably have owned this. So there's not really much else I can say other than it's a fantastic number 3. So number 2 for me is that other Capcom game, and yep, it's a huge franchise, and this one is Mega Man 2. Now, why Mega Man 2 and not Mega Man 1, 3, 4, 5 or 6? So, this was the first Mega Man game that I ever played, and it was weird really, when I first got it, didn't realise that when I was selecting the bad guys, I was too young to really understand that those were the bosses that I was picking. I was picking what stage I was actually doing. I just thought that I'm just gonna do this boss, and I'm just gonna select this boss and play this boss kind of thing. I didn't really comprehend it was a level select, and I also didn't realise that certain power-ups were better against other bosses than others. Like how the buzzsaw, when you beat not Woodman. I can't remember the boss's names now off the top of my head, but you get like a saw, and that was good against Woodman. And if you had if you beat Bubble Man, his weapon would be good against Heat Man or Fireman or whatever it's called. But it was such an amazing game, and again, the level design is amazing, and the graphics are really good. Again, the beautiful pixel art sprites on this game. And you know what I'm going to say, but the soundtrack to this game is possibly one of the best soundtracks on this system. It's absolutely amazing. But again, this was the first Mega Man game that I ever played, and it had such a huge impact on me because everything from the very moment you switch on your NES, the music grabs you, and the graphics grab you, and you want to watch that little cutscene. Not to say that Mega Man 1 isn't a bad game. Mega Man 1 is a good game, but this really polished it and made it a superb game. And I played 3, but I didn't really get on with 3 as well as I got on with number 2. And I never played number 4 in my early years until I really got it recently as a collector. And 5 and 6 were not released in this country, so I never had them. But yeah, my number 2 is Mega Man 2. Guess what number 1 is? So here it is, my number 1, and absolutely no surprises, so I'm not going to hold off for very long. It's Super Mario Bros. 3. And if I see any video responses to this, I'll be very surprised if Super Mario Bros. 3 isn't in the top 3, if I'm perfectly honest with you. This is a game very much like Mega Man 2 that I can go back to again and again and again and just play it all the way through and complete it again and have just as much fun playing it as I did the very first time that I ever played it. It was such a step up from Super Mario Bros. 1 that, it's in a world of its own. It really is possibly one of the greatest Mario games ever played. Super Mario Bros. 2, as much as I did like Super Mario Bros. 2, it wasn't officially a Mario game anyway, let's be honest. I mean, it was Doki Doki Panic reskinned because they felt that we couldn't handle the true Super Mario Bros. 2. So we got that Super Mario Bros. 2, and then Super Mario Bros. 3 went back to its kind of roots, and it added, the power-ups, the raccoon power-up, the Tanuki power-up, the frog suit power-up, the Hammer Brother power-up, and that just made it just so much more diverse. And with the level select as well, where you go through the maps and the 8 worlds and how different the 8 worlds were, which was so different compared to Mario Bros. 1 and Mario Bros. 2. This was just such a step up from the first 2 Mario games, and this is easily my number 1. Absolutely no hesitation, and I will be very, very surprised if this was not in at least the top 3 of other people's top 10s. So there you have it. There's my top 10 Nintendo Entertainment System games. So guys, now it's up to you. I really hope that I can see some video responses to this and I can see what your top 10 Nintendo Entertainment System games are. And obviously I understand that not everyone's got an NES, but I do hope that those that do see this video and create a top 10 of their own, because I'm going to be really interested to see what's in there and to see your top 3 as well. So if you like the video, click like, subscribe if you feel like it, and I'll see you in the next video. Again, thanks very much for watching.